The air stank of betrayal and charred beef. Hoa Karen's smug grin, wide as the Wyoming horizon, made my blood boil hotter than the pit she'd turned my stolen cows into. I'd spent years raising those Black Angus, each one a piece of my soul, only for her to waltz onto my ranch and turn my livelihood into her latest get-rich-quick scheme. She called it Hoa's Barbecue Haven, a ramshackle joint on the edge of town, slinging plates of authentic ranch-style ribs to unsuspecting locals. The gall of it poaching my cattle, butchering them in secret, and then profiting off my loss while sneering at me like I was dirt under her knockoff designer boots. This wasn't just theft. It was war. Hoa had always been the town's self-proclaimed queen, a woman who'd elbow her way to the front of any line, demand discounts for breathing, and berate waitresses for cold coffee. At 300 pounds, with a voice that could curdle milk, she strutted through our small community like she owned it. Her latest venture, rustling my cattle under the cover of night, claiming she'd found them wandering. Found? My ass. Those cows were branded, and I had the paperwork to prove it. But Hoa didn't care about proof. She cared about power, and she thought she'd won. I let her think that. For months, I watched her barbecue joint thrive, the neon sign buzzing like a taunt. Locals raved about the tender, smoky flavor, oblivious to the crime behind it. Every plate sold was a knife in my back, but I bided my time. Revenge, I learned, is a slow-cooked dish, and I was about to serve it cold. It started with whispers. I knew Hoa's operation wasn't just her. She had a crew, two shifty cousins, Dale and Merle, who did the dirty work of sneaking onto my land. They weren't masterminds, just greedy opportunists who thought a few barbed wire cuts and a dark night made them untouchable. I started small, dropping hints at the local diner about missing cattle and funny business at Hoa's place. The town loved gossip, and soon, eyes narrowed when Hoa's name came up. She didn't notice, too busy counting her cash and barking at her overworked staff. I played the fool, even stopping by her restaurant one evening. The place was a circus, greasy tables, flickering lights, and Hoa holding court like some barbecue baroness. Well, if it ain't the rancher, she crowed, her floral moo-moo straining as she leaned over the counter. Come to beg for a free plate. Her laugh was a hyena's cackle, and the handful of patrons glanced my way. Curious. I smiled, tipped my hat, and ordered ribs. They were goddamn good because they were my cows. I left without a word, but not before slipping a note to the sheriff, who'd been nursing a coffee in the corner. Sheriff Daniels was old school, a man of few words but sharp instincts. I'd tipped him off weeks earlier, showing him my brand records and the tire tracks leading from my pasture to Hoa's backlot. He'd nodded, said he'd look into it, but I knew he was waiting for hard evidence. So I gave it to him. I'd spent nights staking out my own ranch, catching Dale and Merle red-handed with bolt cutters and a cattle trailer. My trail cam footage was crystal clear, time-stamped, undeniable. I handed it over, along with a list of every cow I'd lost, cross-referenced with Hoa's sudden meat surplus. The sheriff didn't rush. He let Hoa's business boom, let her dig her own grave. By spring, Hoa's Barbecue Haven was the talk of the county, packed every weekend. She'd even put up a billboard, best barbecue in Wyoming, Hoa's secret recipe. Secret. All right. Stolen. I almost admired her hustle, if it weren't so vile. She'd hired more staff, expanded the menu, and started planning a second location, all on my cows' backs. Then came the reckoning. It was a dusty Saturday evening. The kind where the sky burns orange and the air hums with tension. I drove to the restaurant, parking just out of sight. The lot was packed, music blaring from cheap speakers. HOA was outside, yelling at a delivery driver for being late, her face red and sweaty. Dale and Merle lounged by the barbecue pit, tossing bones into the fire. I signaled the sheriff, who'd pulled up in his unmarked truck. He stepped out, badge glinting, with 2 deputies flanking him. "Hoa," Daniels called, his voice cutting through the noise. She froze, mid-rant, her eyes narrowing like a cornered animal's. "We need to talk." The crowd hushed, sensing trouble. Dale and Merle tried to slink away, but the deputies were faster, blocking their path. I stayed back, leaning against my truck, watching the show unfold. The sheriff laid it out: stolen cattle, falsified purchase records, and video evidence of her cousin's midnight raids. Hoa's face went from smug to panicked, her mouth flapping like a fish out of water. "This is slander," she shrieked, jabbing a finger at me. "He's jealous of my success. He's framing me." But the crowd wasn't buying it. They'd heard the rumors, seen my empty pastures. And when Daniels held up a photo of my brand burned into the hide of a cow served on Hoa's plates, the murmurs turned to gasps. She tried to run. Honest to God. She waddled toward her car, moo-moo flapping. But a deputy caught her in 3 strides. Dale and Merle spilled everything, ratting her out to save their own skins. The sheriff didn't need to cuff her. She was done, her empire crumbling faster than her overcooked brisket. But I wasn't done. See, I'd done my homework. Hoa's restaurant was on leased land, and her landlord was a friend of mine. She'd been late on rent, banking on barbecue profits to cover it. I made a call, and by Monday, the lease was mine. I didn't just want justice. I wanted her to feel the sting. I took over Hoa's barbecue haven. Lock, stock, and smoker. The neon sign came down, replaced with Rancher's Revenge Barbecue. I kept her recipes. Why waste good meat? But every penny went to rebuilding my herd. The town rallied behind me. Locals who'd eaten my cows unknowingly showed up with apologies and cash, helping me restock. HOA. She faced charges: grand theft, fraud, the works. Her cousins got community service, but she was looking at real time. Last I heard, she was screaming about injustice from a holding cell, her voice echoing down the courthouse halls. Nobody listened. I stood in my new restaurant, the smell of smoke and justice in the air. The first night we opened, I served free plates to every rancher in the county. We toasted to hard work, to fighting back, to not letting the HOAS of the world win. My cows were gone, but I'd taken back more than my livelihood. I'd taken her pride. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't a fist or a gun. It's patience, a plan, and the law on your side. HOA thought she could bully her way to the top. But she forgot one thing: this is ranch country, and we protect our own. The end.